You really believe in love then?
Yeah, totally.
Hey there, welcome to this video. I'm Michael, and today we're going to be looking into the story of Leonard Knight and his creation, Salvation Mountain. It's a colorful story, so let's get rolling. Leonard Knight was born on the first day of November in 1931 near Burlington, Vermont. I know someone else from Burlington, Vermont. Growing up with a stutter brought him lots of ridicule, and a spoiled childhood ingrained loner mentality into his mind at a young age. He dropped out of high school in the 10th grade and started working at a factory. At age 20, he was drafted into the Korean War, and 10 days after he arrived in Korea, the war ended. He got back home to Vermont. Knight lived as a factotum, taking on different jobs to pay bills, like painting cars and giving guitar lessons. Indoctrinated with the American dream, Knight believed in working his way to the top. Eventually, Leonard found a different kind of vocation, one that didn't revolve around making money. At age 35, he had a spiritual awakening, which began a lifelong devotion to a singular message. After his father died, Leonard went to San Diego to his sister, Irene's house. She was always talking about God, despite Leonard's disinterest. One morning, according to legend, to escape her evangelizing, Leonard went out to his van for some alone time. I began to recite the sinner's prayer. Jesus, I'm a sinner. Please come into my body and into my heart. For 20 minutes, I was just saying it over and over again, and it completely changed my life for the good. Approaching life with new vigor and direction, Leonard headed back home to Vermont to spread the good word, but was met with the same disinterest he used to give his sister. He had distilled Christianity into a singular message, that God is love, but he hadn't found a way to impart its complete meaning. According to church leaders in Leonard's hometown, his message was too simple. One day, a publicity stunt involving a hot air balloon sparked an idea in Leonard's head. If he could print the sinner's prayer onto a hot air balloon, Leonard would not need the church to fulfill his vocation by spreading this message. There was one problem, though. Leonard had no money. So, as a man of modest means, he began to do the only thing he could to get that balloon: pray. After 10 years of unanswered prayers, Leonard decided to travel for some inspiration. Breaking down in Nebraska turned a 5-day road trip out west into a 5-year stay, as Knight came to the realization that if God was going to give him a balloon, it would be through Leonard's own hands. Unfamiliar with balloon construction, he started anyways. Knight spent several years stitching away at that lifting envelope. As it grew larger and larger, Knight began to realize that the project was a lot more complicated than he had assumed. It also had a major problem. The balloon would not inflate. Knight continued to try and give flight to this balloon, leaving Nebraska for Arizona until eventually heading to Slab City in Southern California. We'll talk about Slab City in a little bit. But time went on, and every time Leonard tried to inflate his balloon, something would tear. As soon as he tried to fix it, it would tear somewhere else. The long construction period and instability of the climates caused the fabric to rot and fail. Leonard himself had failed. With his balloon dream deflated, Leonard decided to admit defeat and leave Southern California. Determined to leave one final statement before heading out, he used cement to make a small monument in honor of his mission. That's when something unexpectedly remarkable happened. He never stopped building. In fact, Leonard found himself in that same spot nearly 5 years later, still building upon that original monument. It had grown large, beyond 50 feet tall. Leonard had been sourcing paint and concrete from places like the dump to construct it. Sleeping in his vehicle the whole time, he also survived without running water. Leonard's dedication to building the mountain meant he had little disposable income. So he did what anybody would do and began cutting the concrete with sand and junk items. Ultimately, this decision would cost him, as one day in 1988, the monument collapsed under its own weight. Undeterred from this, Leonard took it as a sign from God to work safer. So he did. Inspired by the environment, he began educating himself on the local culture and their methods of construction. Utilizing local adobe, clay, and straw, Leonard discovered a way to build sustainably. Recompleting the mountain bigger and more stable than ever before, Leonard decided to build a permanent place for himself to sleep, and added a hogan to the structure. A hogan is the primary dwelling of the Navajo Nation. It's a building constructed of logs, much like a log cabin. Leonard, always upcycling, used decommissioned telephone poles instead. The logs were then packed over with adobe and straw, embedding them into the natural landscape and providing energy-efficient housing with protection from the elements. Now, if you visit Salvation Mountain, you're bound to be blown away by its incredible coloring. Leonard himself estimated that he put over 100,000 gallons of paint on it. It's really hard to believe that he got all that paint from the dump, and that's because he didn't. As word of the mountain spread, people from all over began bringing Leonard gallons of paint to use. One of the most remarkable aspects of the mountain is the community it created. Eventually, that community would be tested. See, Salvation Mountain is at the entrance to Slab City. As described by Salvation Mountain Inc., the unincorporated city is a community of local snowbirds and squatters occupying the old, dismantled, abandoned Fort Dunlop World War II Marine Training Base. Only the concrete slabs of the buildings remain, thus the name Slab City. The land is owned by the state of California. After World War II, the United States federal government turned the land back over to the state of California. A short time after this, creosote leaf farmers parked their trailers here, and the rest is history. As time went on, more people would settle here. The encampment grew larger and more consistent. Also known as the last free place in America, Slab City offers free camping for those living alternatively, and has a history of self-policing, which has helped fuel its reputation as a lawless place. Since the area is owned by the state, Slab City became a political target, gifting its bad reputation to Salvation Mountain in the process. Things came to a head in 1994 when the county, looking to chip away at the community, sought to test the soil for toxins, branding the mountain a toxic nightmare. Before the results even came back, Leonard found himself at the center of controversy. Leonard wasn't worried, however, because Leonard used non-toxic paints, of course. When the soil results came in reporting high amounts of lead, Leonard was befuddled, to say the least. Something had influenced the tests. Nonetheless, the county quickly petitioned the state of California to remove everything and transport it to a toxic dump out of the state. It would seem like this would be the end of Salvation Mountain. That's when another remarkable thing happened. All those inspired by Leonard's creation banded together to petition for another test. With hundreds of handwritten names, the second test was approved, and soil samples were sent to an independent lab in San Diego. Results came back negative for all contaminants, including lead, which meant that the mountain could stay in place. Despite the illegal success, the reputation of Slab City continues to influence visitors to the site. If you check Google now, you'll find some people complaining about the snowbirds and squatters of Slab City. To quote Carol W., waste of time and gas. The criminal element in ghetto-style geographical location was a huge shock for this curious pilgrim. I don't scare easily, but all I could think of was, I need to get out of here. But those brave enough to set aside their prejudice tend to find something, worth seeing.
I really love it here. I think the freedom of this place is just so beautiful. To me, I wouldn't move for $10 million. And unless I had to. So I'm contented here in the desert, and I'm living where I want to live. And I think good gets better. And I think those great big tanks there were the sewer plant for the Marine base in World War II.
As local guide Pat L. states, it's weird to find this strange thing out there in the middle of nowhere. And what's weirder yet is Slab City is just behind it. If you're driving by, it's worth the visit. Pretty unique place. Don't forget to check out the hidden springs on the right coming in. Now, Knight passed away in 2014 at the age of 82. Nat Geo writer Aaron Huey recounts his own memories of Knight. Leonard Knight was one of those men who was so singular of vision that, from a distance, some would brush it off as crazy. But it didn't take much to realize what Leonard was. Just a conversation and you would know. This man was a saint, an American sadhu in the desert of Southern California. The mountain was his living daily meditation.
This is a love story that is staggering to everybody in the whole world. That God really loves us a lot. I don't know, does that answer that?
Yeah.
Good.
Leonard's goal in life was to spread a message, and his daily meditation in pursuit of that message left a monument behind that continues to draw people to it to this day. There are countless appearances, references, and homages to the mountain in pop culture, including video games, music, movies.
I was gonna go take a walk to Salvation Mountain. You wanna go?
Okay.
You know, the list goes on and on. As a Midwesterner, I never heard of Salvation Mountain. I came across it accidentally while researching the term toxic paint mountain. Don't ask me why. But I was expecting to read about some rube that had poured lead paint all over the desert. I'm happy to find out the truth behind the tale, and I hope you have enjoyed learning about it with me. Leonard's art is truly a sight to behold, so if you get a chance and you're out by the Salton Sea in California, you should check it out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast on Leonard Knight's Salvation Mountain.
If you want to, you can try putting your hands in there. And I'm going to do the same thing, just for the fun. Hey, you're doing real good. You can wipe your hands off of my shirt if you want.
Blah, 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 blah.